Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and this is day 15 of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body course. Today's protein source is going to be pork chops, and today is an active recovery day. So right now, I'm going to be taking you through a full lower body stretching routine. Let's get started. For the stretching routine, we are going to start proximal to distal. So we are going to start with the lower body. We're going to work our way from the lower half of the core down, and we're going to start working our way up after that. With regard to the stretching, we are going to be using the exact same setup position. So we've got the strength bands, and this time we're going to be doing PNF stretching. That's proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. With regard to the first stretch, what we want to do is we are going to work on the lumbar extensors, specifically the erector spinae group, so the iliocostalis, the longissimus, and the spinalis from lateral to medial. And we're going to work on the caudal fibers, being the fibers at the lower end of the erector spinae group, so the ones that attach to the pelvis. For this one right over here, what we would want to do is we are going to lay down on our back, and we want to anchor both of our hips inside of the bands. So for this one, you could go ahead, place it right where your knees are, and then you should get to the point where you feel some nice tension in the lumbar spine. To activate the PNF, what we would do is we're going to try and bring our butt down toward the ground. So bring the lumbar into extension, hold that for 6 seconds. After 6 seconds, relax for 10. And we're going to just wiggle our way forward a little bit. That way we can get a little bit deeper into it. Same thing. We're going to, for 6 seconds, bring our butt down to the ground. And then relax for 10. And once again, we're just going to wiggle our way forward so we can get a little bit deeper into it. Once we've got that nice stretch, butt down to the ground. And on this final pass, relax. We're going to hold it for 20 seconds. With the PNFs, we always do a 6-second contraction, 10-second relax, 6-second contraction, 10-second relax, 6-second contraction, and then on the final attempt, 20 seconds of relaxation. Okay. Next, we are going to move on to the glutes. For the glutes, there's a couple different variations that we are going to do. We're going to be targeting two different fibers, the superior fibers and the inferior fibers. The glutes, if you recall, the superior fibers are responsible for abduction, abduction of the hip, and then the inferior fibers are responsible for a deduction, adduction of the hip, so bringing it toward the midline. When we target the superior fibers, because the superior fibers are responsible for abduction, we are going to bring the leg into a deduction, adduction, in order to get more of a stretch on the superior fibers. So we want to cross the midline. So for this one right over here, it's going to be a single leg variation. What we want to do is we are just going to bring the knee. We want to cross across the midline of the chest. And then we're going to contract by bringing our leg forward. We're going to hold that for 6 seconds. After 6 seconds, relax. And just try and bring your body forward a little bit more. That way you get a nice stretch. And then again, we're going to contract for 6 seconds. So push down. After 10 seconds, relax. And then same thing, we're just going to wiggle our way forward. That way we can get a little bit deeper on this final pass. And we're going to push down, hold that for 6 seconds. And relax. If you want to get even more of an intense stretch, you could also use your arm and assist by pushing your leg into flexion. And then to target the inferior fibers, what we're going to do is we are going to go into a abduction. So we're going to bring our leg to the outside where our armpit is. Same thing. We're going to contract for 6. And then exhale and relax. And we're just going to wiggle our way down. That way we can get a little bit of a deeper stretch. After 10 seconds, we're going to contract for 6 seconds, so push. And then exhale, relax. When you're doing the contractions, you don't need a maximal contraction. All of the contractions are sub-maximal. At most, 20% effort. You don't need more than that. Contract. And relax. Really try and get that hip into as much flexion as possible. One more time. We're just going to lean forward a little bit. Contract. And relax. On this final pass, again, we're going to hold it for 20 seconds. And then next, because we are going proximal to distal, I think you guys could figure out where we're going right now. We're going to be doing the hamstrings next. For the hamstrings, what we want to do is we are going to place the strap around the ankle. And then with a straight leg, what you want to do is you are going to push into the strap forward. Push. This is the semitendinosus. So the leg is straight up. And exhale, relax. You could either wiggle your way forward or use the band and pull on the band. So I'll show you both ways. So contract, exhale, relax, and pull the band backward. We've got one more. Contract, push that leg, keep it straight, and relax. Next, what if we want to do the semimembranosus? For the semimembranosus is most medial, so we would do the exact same thing. We would just place the leg outside. We're going to do the exact same thing. So we are going to contract by pressing the leg forward. And then relax. And you could use the opposite arm to pull. Contract, straighten out that leg. And relax. Use the opposite, or use the arm to really pull yourself back as much as you can. So figure out which one is more comfortable for you, wiggling your way down or using your arm. One more time, contract. And relax. Now that we've done the semimembranosus, next up is going to be the biceps femoris. The biceps femoris is the most lateral of the hamstrings group. So for the biceps femoris, we're going to go across the midline like we did for the superior fiber of the glutes. And then for this one, you want to slightly laterally rotate your femur as you contract. So we contract, point the toes away, and relax. And this one is way more intense. Another option, instead of pulling vertically, what you can do, or horizontally, what you could do is pull across this way. So if you pull this way, you'll get even more of a stretch. And then contract and relax. For me, this is definitely way more intense than the semimembranosus, and for most people, the biceps femoris is going to be a lot more intense than the semimembranosus. Last one, contract and relax. 20 seconds on this final pass. And then we're going to come out of it. Once we come out of it, we are going to move distally onto the gastrocnemius, or the calf muscle. So for this one right over here, what we would want to do is we are going to place the band at the balls of the feet. You're going to come forward until you get a nice stretch on the calf. And then for this one, to activate the PNF, you're going to press on the gas. So push your foot forward. Lock out that knee if you really want to target the gastrocnemius, and relax. And just slide forward. If you wanted to target the soleus, the only difference is you would do a bent knee. The bent knee would target more the soleus because it would put the gastrocnemius under slack, because the gastrocnemius crosses the knee. Press. And again, we're just going to hold for 6 seconds and relax. And once again, another option, instead of wiggling forward, you could always just grab a hold of the band and lean back into it. So for me, it's better to do it with one arm. If you do it with two, you're going to go sliding all over the place. Yeah, if you do pull on it with one arm, you could get a little bit more of an intense stretch because you're shortening the lever point on the band. One more time, contract. So really point those toes. And relax. Get deeper into it. And now that we did the posterior right leg, we're going to do the posterior left leg. Or if you ended up doing the left already, we're going to do the right. Same thing though. The erector spinae group was a bilateral stretch, so there's no need to redo that one. We're just going to move on to the glute. So again, for the glute max, we have the superior fibers that are responsible for abduction, and then the inferior are responsible for adduction. We're doing the abduction fibers right now, the superior fibers. So because we're doing the superior fibers, what we would want to do is we are going to cross the midline. We're going to go into adduction. So bring it across. Going to contract, so push your leg down toward the sky. Hold that for 6 seconds. And then exhale, relax. You could either pull up with this hand or shimmy your way down. I prefer to shimmy my way down. I find that I get a better stretch that way. Plus, prevents me from tiring out my arms. Contract for 6. And relax. If you want to get deeper, just shimmy down. Contract. After 6 seconds, exhale. And relax. Next, we're going to target the glute max inferior fibers by going into abduction. This is also going to get some of the adductor muscles as well. But we're just going to drive our foot away from us, hold for 6 seconds, and relax. And once again, we're just going to shimmy forward, contract for 6, and relax. If you want to get a little bit deeper, shimmy forward, contract. This is going to be the final pass, and relax. On this final one, 20 seconds. And then let's see if you guys could figure out what's next. If you know, write it down in the comment section. All right, we're moving distally from the glutes, which means it's time for the hammies. For the hamstrings, we're just going to get back. That way we're not under too much stretch right off the bat. So we're going to do the semitendinosus first. Semitendinosus, leg is straight up. So you want to lock out that knee, point your toes. We're going to contract for 6, push, and relax. For this one, again, you could either use your arms to pull, or you could wiggle your way forward. Find which way is more comfortable for you. Contract, and relax. Try and get deeper into it. Got one more pass. We're going to contract for 6, and then relax. And again, let's see if you guys can figure out what's next. We just did the semitendinosus. What comes after the semitendinosus? If you guys guessed semimembranosus, you are correct. For the semimembranosus, we're just bringing the leg out to the side a bit. For this one, you could even use your arm just as for support so that the band doesn't drop you all the way down to the floor. We're gonna push in and down and relax. And for this one, I'm gonna wiggle because I prefer to wiggle than to use my arms. Contract and relax. Let's get a little bit deeper. We've got one more. Contract and relax. The closer you are to the ground, the more difficult this stretch is going to be and the more intense it's going to be. It's also going to start to target more of the adductors the closer you get to the ground. So if you want to get more of the semimembranosus, about 45 degrees would be great. If you want to get more of the adductors, then bring your legs straight down to the ground. All right, next we're going to do the biceps femoris. So for the biceps femoris, again, we are going to be going in toward the midline. So we're going to cross the midline, push our legs down, and after 6 seconds, relax and just let the band gently pull you back. If you can, if that doesn't feel too intense, you could come forward a little bit. You could also use your opposite arm just to stabilize your leg and help to keep your knee nice and straight. Contract. I'm going to do that for 6 seconds. After 6 seconds, relax. If that feels comfortable, wiggle your way down a little bit. Use your hand to keep your knee nice and straight. One more time. Contract and relax. Oh, we've got one left for the posterior aspect of the body. Let's see if you guys could figure out the last posterior chain stretch before I give it away. Did you guess gastrocnemius? If you did, congratulations, you win a prize, and the prize is, I'll figure it out later and I'll get back to you. You're going to place the band around the ball of the feet, straighten out the leg, get into as much dorsiflexion as possible, so you're pointing your toes toward your head. Press on the gas, and let me move this leg out of the way, that way you get a better view. And exhale, relax. If that's comfortable, come forward a bit more. And again, for this one over here, we could also, instead of just wiggling forward, we could just lean back onto it, contract, and relax. And then just lean back a little bit more to intensify the stretch. One more time. Let me just readjust this because it's a little bit too much on the medial arch. There we go. That's way more comfortable. Contract and relax. And for this last one, I'm really going to lean back. The more you lean back, the more of a stretch you'll get. Make sure that you keep that knee straight if you want to target the gastrocnemius. If you want to target the soleus, you're going to bend the leg. But that covers it for the posterior chain. Now we're going to move on to the anterior chain. So since we already did the lumbar spine, we did the erector spinae group in the caudal fibers, we did the glutes, we did the hamstrings, the calves. So now we're going to start at the center and we are going to work distally from there. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to start at the psoas major. For the psoas major, the way that we want to do this one, there's two possible ways. You could either place the band around the thigh, or you could place it around the foot and ankle. If you want to place it around the foot and ankle, then what you would do, I'll show you both ways. What you would do is you would want to create a little bit of a loop over here, and then you would want to fish your foot through the loop so that it doesn't slide off. Then from this position, you would kind of just get into a lunge. You could use your opposite arm for support. And then you would want to bring your knee forward. So we're going to activate the hip flexors. Hold for 6 seconds, relax. And then we're just going to get a little bit deeper by taking a bigger step forward. When I do the next leg, I'll show you guys around the thigh. For now, I'm going to just keep it around the ankle because I don't want to move around too much. And I'm just going to drive the hip forward, activate those hip flexors. So right now, we're targeting the psoas major, the iliacus, and relax. Also, the rectus femoris, the proximal fibers. Lean forward. Really open up those hips. So push that hip forward, allow that band to pull you into extension. We've got one more pass. Bring that hip forward. When you bring the hip forward, it's going to help you to lean forward. Otherwise, if you do it in that tall kneeling position, you're going to have a really hard time maintaining your balance. And get deeper into it. And when you get deeper into it, that's when you could stand up into this position. So get nice and tall. And that was for the psoas major. Next, we are going to be moving distally to the rectus femoris. For the rectus femoris, what we want to do for this one right over here is, once again, we could keep this same setup position that we had for the psoas major, where we have it locked in around our foot. And then for this one, what we would want to do is we're going to be facing the opposite way. So instead of having our head facing that way, we're going to be facing this way. So the way that this would set up is it would benefit you to do this. So get it right around. There we go. Okay, there we go. So you want to go ahead, get it around the ankle. Remember, the rectus femoris is responsible for both extension of the knee and flexion of the hip. So what you would want to do, by being on your stomach and facing this, as you push away, that's going to bring your hip into extension. And then what you would do to contract is you bring your leg down, kick, hold for 6, and then let it relax. And then just push yourself. Kick, bring that hip down, and relax. And push away. Really try and keep that hip down to the ground. One more time. Push. And relax. On this last one, we're going to hold it for 20 seconds. And that's going to cover it for the anterior aspects of the body. So for the anterior chain, for the lower body, all we have is the psoas major and the rectus femoris. If you did want to do the posterior tibialis, the posterior tibialis is the anterior tibialis. If you wanted to do the anterior tibialis, what you can do is just wrap it up against the dorsal surface of the foot, come back, and then for this one, it would also be beneficial to kind of crisscross it. By doing that little crisscross, it's going to lock it in place a lot better. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot easier to fall off. And then alternatively, you could also just sit down onto your calves, but I'm going to show you guys this method. If you get it low enough, you should be good. So we're going to point our toes toward our head and relax. Point the toes toward the head and relax. One more time. Get deeper into it. Point the toes and relax. I need to get myself a camera person because Trying to wiggle away so that I stay in frame is a little bit tricky and it's affecting these stretches. If I had a camera crew, that way they could just follow me around, it would make these way easier. That covers it for the right side anterior aspect of the hip. Next, we are going to move on to the left side. So for the left side, I'm going to show you guys how you could do this with the strength band wrapped around the knee as opposed to wrapped around the ankle. Me personally, I prefer it wrapped around the ankle, but if you guys like this way, give this way a try. Try both, see which one you like. You want to place it just superior to the patella, so just above the knee, right where the quadriceps tendon is. Then for this one, you would just get into your kneeling position. And once again, we're just going to drive the knee forward, hold for 6 seconds, and relax. And when we relax, take a step forward and get deeper into it. The reason I'm not a huge fan of this one is because it makes it a lot easier to slip off of your knee. And if you're focusing on the band slipping off, it's going to make it hard for you to focus on the actual stretch itself. But again, it is personal preference. If you're able to do it and it's comfortable and it doesn't distract you, contract, then go ahead. Again, give both a try, see which one you like. Maybe you might like this one better. And relax. So we're just going to lean forward, push that hip down toward the ground, really focus on extending that hip. So activate that glute as much as possible. That way we create some nice space in the front of the hip. One more time. Contract. And relax. And on this final relax, let's get as deep as we possibly can. So really try and create as much space in that front of the hip as you can. And use your opposite arm. Just lean onto your leg. If you lean on, then you're not going to have to strain as much and it's going to be a lot more comfortable. All right. We did the psoas major. You guys know what's next. What's distal to the psoas major? The rectus femoris. For the rectus femoris, once again, we are laying down on our stomach. There we go. We want to go ahead and place it at the bottom of the tibia, so right at the distal tibia. Let's see, am I in frame? I'm going to have to move a little bit more this way. Give a little kick. Hold for 6 seconds. And exhale, relax. Push yourself back. Kick. Hold for 6 seconds. Exhale, relax, and get deeper into it. Kick. Exhale, relax, and deeper into it. So if you really want to get the proximal fibers, lift your leg up to the ground. If you want to target more of the distal fibers, keep it a little bit lower. Oh, but that was attempt number 3, 20 seconds. And that covers it for the rectus femoris. Next, if you guys want to do the anterior tibialis, again, if you guys wanted to, you could create a little bit of a loop to lock your foot in place. I'm going to do that this time around because when I didn't do the loop the last time, I didn't get quite as much of a stretch because I was worried about the band coming off. Oh, now I'm getting much better stretch because I don't have to worry about the band coming off. Point your toes toward your head. Exhale, relax. And just let me shift back. I'm going to hold that for 10 seconds, then we're going to contract. We're going to hold for 6. And exhale, relax. You're going to hold that for 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, get a little deeper into it by leaning back. Contract one more time. And exhale, relax. Lean back. If you want to create greater myofascial tension along the anterior chain, you could lay down on your back. That's going to put the abdominal fascia under tension, which is going to transfer into the pelvis, which is going to transfer into the thigh, which is going to transfer into the lower leg. And after 20 seconds, you could either fall asleep or you could join me for the upper body. But that concludes the PNF stretching for the lower body. Next, we are going to move on to the PNF stretching for the upper body. Thanks for sticking around until the end of the video. Be sure to like, share, and leave a comment as it'll help the algorithm. And if you enjoyed the content, show your support by subscribing to the channel by clicking on the icon in the bottom right corner. And if you really want to show your support, then consider becoming a member by clicking on the icon in the bottom left corner. These new high-quality videos aren't cheap to edit, and the $5 membership will really help with the video editing budget. You'll also get access to a ton of exclusive perks like early access to videos and this program design lecture playlist in the top right-hand corner. And if you want to learn how to do a one-armed pull-up, then check out the playlist on the top left corner.